All right, welcome to the third video, second review of the evening in Iconia Defenders. Build mazes, customize your deck, and travel through time in a nostalgic tower defense game with a minimalist feel and a roguelike twist. Only you can save the Tree of Life from the malevolent forces of the corruption. The Tree of Life is being consumed, stripped of your memories and powers by a sacrificial act. You find yourself in possession of the Corruption Extractor. Really descriptive names here. Like
Yeah,
the
that
only,
was a thing that came up
the
while I
only,
was playing.
the only tool that can remove the corruption from the roots of the world. Each defeat brings you back to the tree's roots, where it restores your powers in exchange for the corrupted essence extracted during your trial. Your mission: purify the tree's timelines. For each failed attempt, leave such a branch doomed to oblivion. Before we get into the review proper, there is a AI-generated content disclosure warning here. The developers have used AI-generated content in the sense of AI was used to generate the game and the story translations in combination with human efforts to guarantee consistency and clarity.
This is written a bit unclearly. It may just mean the translations, but it may mean the actual game.
So, yeah. Anyway, to the review itself, then.
So yeah, some tower defense games try to attract you with flashy graphics and interesting gameplay gimmicks. This is not one of those. This is a really, really basic tower defense game. Especially visually, everything is just represented by tiles and nodes. And you start out with pretty basic physical and magical turrets. You get some that can do status effects pretty quickly, and then going forward, they're fairly slow to unlock. Honestly, it took me a very long time to get through beyond like wave 3 of this. And I don't know, I haven't seen any evidence that there's like more than one stage. It's like, I believe you are always starting at the beginning. There are meta upgrades that like get you add new cards to your deck that increase the battlefield, that give you more bonuses at starting, that increase your extractor's health, but it's always just the same thing. And it took me just a few playthroughs before I hit upon that basically the strategy here is to basically build a spiral with strategically centered towers so that your enemies are exposed to the maximum amount of tower fire. Which is a little bit disappointing. You start out with not a whole lot of stuff to play with. Another thing is that there are actually deck building rules. Like, you have a limited number of things, and you are always going to have way more walls in your deck. Like, by default, you can have between 7 and 9 walls between 1 and 2 turrets and 1 spell, which is stuff like there's a spell that lets you pick up a tower you've already put down and play it somewhere else. There's one that lets you destroy everything in a 3x3 area. So yeah, you're going to be building a lot of walls here, and it's when I started playing, I was very frustrated actually by the fact that they give you walls as your main tool, and then seemingly arbitrarily, aside from, well, you couldn't play the game that way, arbitrarily prevent you from completely blocking off your extractor for no other reason. Like, there's not even like a plot reason why you can't do that. It's just, no, you can't. You have to leave a path for the enemies to get to it.
That's fairly typical tower defense design, though.
Well, yeah, the game, I mean, it introduces flying enemies later on, but that can go over the walls, but in general, it was a little bit distracting to me to be able to build all these walls, and in fact, have to build a ton of walls because you draw 5 cards, and then the cost to draw more cards increases based on how many of those you haven't played. Like, if you've played all of them, it's free, so you really want to be, like, using up all your walls. But no, gotta make sure that the orcs can still just walk up if you don't shoot them fast enough. Again, as a traditional tower defense thing, you have no actual... Yeah, I believe the whatever phase that was, is that the second or third phase, is
second.
Pretty much unbeatable in the first run because of... or did you just beat it?
I survived because
Okay.
one of them got through.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's really hard because you don't get a lot of the magic turrets, and orcs are resistant to physical damage. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky to see the difference between the enemies when they're small, because that's a thing. But yeah, you don't have any, like, there's no actual actions you can take, per se. You just build things. The only way you can interfere with things in the middle of a run is by upgrading things or building more things. But there's no, like, action commands that you sometimes get in these things. Or spells or whatever. It's a little bit addictive, I found, but otherwise there's not really a whole lot to it. It's very... I feel like being able to have almost total control over the terrain, because there's almost nothing to the terrain other than the walls and towers that you build, is like the closest thing there is to a gimmick here. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It just feels like there's not a whole lot here. And again, it's using the random generation factor to prolong the things. Also, after you lose, you get to use based on how many enemies you killed mostly. You get to unlock new things, and then on each run you get a choice between 2 branches, one of which is usually about default difficulty, and one of which is harder but gives more rewards. Honestly, I was mostly just playing in the default ones because I didn't want to, I wanted to try to get as far as I can, instead of doing things, but yeah. I feel like because of the way the whole thing is designed, it does lend itself a little bit to there being fairly... The fact that you also only get to choose 2 kinds of turrets. Like, once your deck gets done, it gets shuffled back in, and in between waves, you get power-ups that can include different kinds of things that weren't in your initial deck. But you don't get a whole lot of variety. So, like, in general, I've only used the status effect ones when, for my run, I got a challenge that made it so that physical damage was resisted significantly by all enemies. And in that case, yeah, you might as well, if the arrows aren't going to do shit, you might as well just include, like, ice turrets or fire turrets or something. Yeah. It's hard to say, because I don't know, I actually do like some of the ideas of this game, but the implementation is a little bit basic. And I'm curious, like, you do get, like, plot discussions after most runs, as long as you didn't completely fail.
As long as you do something in the run, basically.
Yeah. So I'm curious if there's anything interesting in the plot. It hasn't really gotten to that point yet where I am, but yeah. It's a little bit of an enigma. The music is appropriate but very loud, which is not super surprising. You can change the volume when you want to. Yeah,
Looks like there's pretty
trying to decide whether
extensive tower upgrade options here.
There are, and you get a lot more. If you defeat the large enemies, each one of those is worth over 100 points, I think. So that helps a lot. You'll also note that some of them are locked off unless you have certain previous ones.
Yeah. Well, it looks like they're doing a system where you get X amount from tier, then it unlocks a new tier, and then it just keeps going
That is
up from there.
correct. I've gotten to the 3rd tier.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time thinking about it. I'm annoyed about the AI thing. I'm hoping it's just for translation, and even then, that annoys me.
Yeah.
The graphics are insanely basic.
Yeah, like it. Not a knock against programmer art, but there's definitely like not professional artist looking, if you get my drift.
Mm-hmm. What's the price, Adam?
Quite expensive at $12.
I don't think it's worth $12 unless you're really into the idea of a randomized tower defense game.
Yeah, I can see that.
Once again, I come down to there are better tower defense games for less on Steam.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of tower defense games, so I don't like have as much awareness of the full environment of the competition. But I can't imagine there aren't.
Hell, there are still pretty good tower defense games on like Newgrounds or whatever.
Hell, we've covered better tower defense games this year. Like, I probably recommend Trolls versus Vikings over this. I mean, not the least of which is that has actual art, and doesn't have any AI disclaimers.
Yeah, that's obnoxious, frankly. Also, sometimes I'm trying to figure out if there's a pattern to it. Sometimes the quote-unquote bonuses you get between things are cursed, and that's annoying. To get like, oh yeah, actually, instead of getting a nice bonus here, you're getting penalized because of reasons. Some of them are mixed bags rather than totally bad, but still. I wish I could figure out why that happens, frankly. And yeah, just the idea that there's one extremely efficient strategy is annoying to me. and the build a spiral seems to be extremely efficient.
Mm.
So yeah, that's pretty much where I am at on this game, I think. Which is
Well,
certainly not at full price. If you're interested in the genre and are willing to... I really want more clarification on what they used AI for on this, because it's not phrased well, which ironically indicates that there's a decent chance it's just for the translation. Do we know where the company that made this is from?
what country?
Yeah.
I'd have to look it up. Do.
Anyway.
I think some European nation.
So yeah, there's plenty of caveats, and a good chunk of it depends on if it's on, like, either way I would wait until it's on sale. But in that case, I can see circumstances where this might appeal to some people enough to be worth checking out. But I probably wouldn't go above like $5-10 for it tops, like preferably closer to $5.
All right. Anything else?
I
Did
think
you
I'm
say
good.
something, Adam?
Yeah. He asked if you had
Anything
anything
else?
else.
Hello?
I can hear
Hello?
you just fine. I think Gulix might be having connection issues this time.
No, it's just you
Okay.
were quiet and something loud happened.
All right. Anything else?
No, I think that's all.
All right. All right. So that'll about do it for Iconia Defenders here. Be sure to tune in after the break as we give opinions on Utopia Must Fall.